So why must spiritual maturity and emotional maturity go together? Or why is it that you can't be spiritually mature while remaining emotionally immature? And the answer is very simple, is because we've got a lot of Christians out there who are lousy human beings. I'm talking about judgmental, critical, proud, defensive, touchy, unapproachable, unsafe, who know the Bible, do actually practice spiritual disciplines, faithful churchgoers, accepted Jesus, but they're just not warm people. They're not approachable. They're not soft. They're not loving. And something's deeply wrong. And the reason they must go together is because Jesus says what makes a Christian is not just that you love God. The Pharisees were big on loving God. They did all kinds of things there. They fasted, they tithed, they memorized the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They were incredibly zealous, did evangelism, but they didn't love people. And if you look at the New Testament, Jesus' conflict with them was always about your spirituality. The depth of your maturity is reflected in the way that you love and treat people that you don't like and enemies. And it's all about loving people. That's the heart of spirituality. That's where it really comes out and is brought into the flesh. And so you find Paul writing in 1 Corinthians 13, for example, you may have all these great gifts, you may do miracles, you may have faith to move mountains, but if you don't have love, Paul says you have nothing. You may not even be a Christian. That is his criteria for maturity and for Christianity. And when Jesus is with the Pharisees who are judging him because he's hanging around tax collectors and sinners, outcasts of that day, the non-religious people, he wasn't religious enough. And he says to them, you don't really get the Bible. And he quotes one of the prophets from Hosea, and he says, God says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. I want mercy flowing out of you towards people, not just religious activity. And the Pharisees just couldn't get it. In fact, another great story in the Sermon on the Mount, when, understand, in the context of that day, if you had a conflict with your brother or sister or someone, and you're in worship, the rabbis would say, worship, and when you're finished, go reconcile with your brother. Jesus says, no, no, no. If you're at the altar and you realize your brother has something against you, he says, leave the altar, leave your gift at the altar, go reconcile with your brother and come back. For Jesus, that was a priority before just doing religious activity. So there's nothing more important than growing and becoming an emotionally mature person, because we're talking about becoming a loving person. And that's a discipleship issue. And that's how we began 24, 25 years ago, discipling people, not just on how to love God, but how to love people. It doesn't happen naturally. Otherwise, we just do what our family of origin does. And so you cannot separate the two. We don't want to be winning the whole world and losing our soul.